So this is Bree Willie, Dr. Bree Willie, Business for Nerds Live. And today on my show, I have Scott Perry, who's my coach and mentor. I'm so excited to have him on the show. And he is going to tell us all about his awesome book. And I seriously mean that, Intrepid. So, oh, it's so cool. I love the picture on the front. Um,
Thank you.
Actually, I have some questions, but I'm just going to go with the flow with some of my questions too, I think. Could you tell us about the cover? What is the meaning behind that?
Yeah. So one of the things about many of my books is that they often are one word, and they are often words that we don't use very often. Like the very one of my earliest books was endeavor, which is a word that we don't really hear that often. Although there's been a PBS miniseries about someone named Endeavor
Oh,
since I published that book, but Intrepid is an interesting word because most people think it means fearless when it actually means the recognition of fear and being resolute and forthright anyways, right? To act knowing that or to lean into the fear or to leverage the fear as a tool for leaning in. So when
hmm.
I was Intrepid is also sort of fits within a trilogy between Endeavor and Onward. And
Oh,
those books have a very similar look to them in terms of the cover art. Um, Endeavor has a compass, and Onward has a kind of a hazardous, squiggly road sign arrow. Uh, so I actually used Claude AI to help me come up with like what's an image that will project what I'm trying to say in this book about being intrepid, about caring enough to commit, and so forth. And the lantern was one of the things that it came up with, and I just thought, like, of all the images that suggested, that was the one that over and over and over again uh, really resonated with me. And I, of course, I reached out to members of the community and everybody. You were one of the people early on that said, "I just love this cover art." So
hmm.
it's what I decided to go with, and I love the way this book looks as well.
Yes. Um, are there physical versions of your other books too? Endeavor and Onward? There are.
Are there? Yes. They're both those three. The trilogy are the three that all have physical paperback editions available. I think there's one more tiny handbook. The Creative on Purpose handbook also is available in paperback, but um, I'm actually contemplating a future revised edition of Endeavor and Onward with Intrepid woven in as a hardback release. So we'll have to see if that
Ooh.
pans out.
I'll have to collect them. I like to collect books, obviously, as
There
I
you
have
go.
like a shelf behind me. Anyway, let's see. So getting to the question, so we got that one. I do love it. It reminds me of Lord of the Rings and as they're in the cave and they're like, which way do we go? And having a light like that would be so important. So I think it's a great picture.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah. Let's see. So looking at questions, you say people don't have a motivation problem, they have a commitment problem. What's the difference between those, would you say?
It's a great question. A lot of people, I think, do confuse and conflate those two dynamics. Uh, we often feel like we can't commit until we have motivation. Um, One of the things that we talk quite a bit about in the circle and inner circle communities, of which you are a part, is this idea of becoming the thing by doing the thing.
Mm,
Um, Motivation is in some ways related to another thing that people often get confused about, which is inspiration. And Somerset Maugham, who is one of my favorite authors, he wrote one of my favorite books called The Razor's Edge. There's a fabulous old movie starring Tyrone Powers, which I highly recommend. There's an updated version starring Bill Murray, which is okay. Um, but the book is really fabulous. And Somerset Maugham was asked by a interviewer, "Do you write when do you write on a schedule or when you are inspired?" And he responded, "I only write when I'm inspired. Fortunately, inspiration shows up every morning at 9 a.m." And it was his way of saying, you know, the inspiration visits those who are ready. Uh,
Ooh.
Elizabeth Gilbert has a great TED talk about this. Like, inspiration is circling the ether, looking for an outlet. It wants a vehicle to manifest the inspiration. Now, is it going to manifest through someone that's sitting on the couch saying, "I can only write when I'm inspired, so I'm going to sit here and I'm going to wait for inspiration while I watch soap operas and eat bonbons"? Or is it going to go to the person that is waking up, lacing up their boots, doing the work every single day, sitting in front of the typewriter, typing bad words until the good words come? Well, I would argue that inspiration is going to go with the later rather than the former. And so, rather than thinking about motivation preceding commitment, what I am arguing or asserting is that if you commit to the journey and you commit to a daily discipline of showing up and leaning in and doing the work, you will become motivated, which will only fuel greater commitment. I have talked about this in other books, that posture informs mindset, not the other way around. People often
Mm.
talk about, well, I got to get my mindset right. I got to overcome all my false beliefs. I got to tackle all my cognitive biases and distortions before I can do anything. It's like, no, actually, you become the thing by doing the thing. And just to clarify, I am not talking at all about faking it until you make it. We
Mm.
don't need any more fakers or posers in this world.
No,
We have more than enough. What we
100%.
lack is people that are brave enough to show up before success is guaranteed, that are brave enough to show up as they are with what they have, do what they can with whoever's around, and trust that skill and confidence will be earned by doing things before we're entirely ready or entirely guaranteed to succeed. I would argue that there is no such thing as guaranteed success. There is no such thing as perfect readiness. You become the thing by doing the thing. If you want to become confident, you have to confidently begin where you are. If you want to become clear, you're going to have to start before you're absolutely clear on the destination. And clarity and confidence are earned, and they are not destinations. They are skills that you earn by behaving in a way that demonstrates clarity and confidence.
That reminds me of, when I first started playing guitar and went out in front of people the first time I bombed it, and people even said mean things afterwards, but that was a stepping stone to improving myself, and I got better and better the more I guess, engaged the field. A lot of us know this and learned it earlier in our lives, but somehow we got stuck and stopped doing the thing we know how to do. And this book is about helping us do that thing and, to commit to it, keep going. So cool. So that reminds me of this was the question I sent you in our Voxer chat. So, and you already started to talk about it. So, showing up even if we don't feel like it, that commitment piece to show up and create art or a blog, even if the inspiration isn't there. How do we do that better? Or how is it that you do that? How have you been? What works for you, would you say?
Well, one of the things that I share in the book is, folks that are drawn to my work, folks that are drawn to your work, are people that self-identify as being purpose-driven. They want to live lives of integrity and do their work with integrity. They would rather not have to do things that don't align with their personality and preferences. One of the things that people come to me with all the time is, I need help uh, with my social media content. And I'll say, oh, okay. Do you like being on social media? Oh, no, I hate being on social media. Well, then why are you on social media? Because I have to be on social media. Why do you have to be on social media? Because all the gurus and digital marketers tell me so. It's like, well, I'm not on social media and I'm doing just fine. Like
Mhm.
we're we like the idea of playing our own game on our terms, but a lot of the times I can catch myself and other people playing someone else's game by their rules and then completely mystified as to why they're unhappy. Um,
Mhm.
so when it comes to this idea of readiness, what I'm really talking about is, are you ready enough? And are you avoiding the aspiration trap, right? So a lot of the folks I work with who are purpose driven, who seek to make a difference and have an impact, they want to tackle the big issues. They want to tackle, inequality and injustice and global warming and income inequity and all these things. It's like, okay, great to have these big, bold, audacious goals. Let's make sure we're not just creating a seductive way to hide, because what I see over and over again is people that say it's all or nothing. I have to solve the global climate crisis, or I'm just, go big or go home, right? Well, when they fail, which they will, because there's way too much beyond your control,
It's a
uh,
situation.
it's a situation and made up of a bunch of circumstances, all beyond your control.
Right.
And therefore, when you fail, you say, well, I tried, I did my best, it was just too big. And that's,
Mm.
my assertion is, you weren't realistic, and you got exactly what you should have expected and certainly what you deserved. I'm not dissuading anybody from tackling the big situations, the big problems, the big issues. What I am
Mhm.
suggesting is, start where you are with what you have, do what you can. And that means, before you get the world to on board with alternative energy solutions, do you have solar panels on your house? Can you get your neighbor to consider putting solar panels on their house? Can you get your neighborhood on board to consider this?
Mhm.
That's a solvable problem. Like, getting 10 people to believe what you believe and get rowing in the same direction you want to row, that's a solvable problem. Getting the world to bend to your solution to a global problem is not a solvable problem. That's an unsolvable situation.
Yeah.
So it's always, you and I talk about this quite a bit in Voxer. What's the step before the step? Like, if solving global warming is the issue, what are the circumstances that we have to account for that are totally outside of our control? And where is our agency? What
Mhm.
is the unique way that I see things and frame the possibilities ahead of me? And where can I decide and do something that I can test for impact, that I can test for validation, that I can test for viability, and do that first? Because what again, you and I talk about this a lot. These micro steps, these solving smaller problems in service of having them compound to solve a bigger problem, those those solving smaller problems compounds over time and has a bigger impact. Nobody notices until the big change happens. And if all you care about is getting credit and recognition and making a ton of money, then that's a different problem. But if you truly just want to have an impact and leave a legacy that's worth remembering, start where you are, solve the problems that you can solve right today, and they will reveal the problems downstream that you can tackle as they arrive, as you gain traction with the cause that you're building, the mission that you're pursuing, and the difference that you want to make.
I love that so much. Um, let's see. So the next question, um, this kind of goes in line with what you're talking about with the problem. So what does it mean to pick the problem, and why do most purpose-driven people skip that step?
Yeah, well, that's what speaks directly to what I was saying.
Mhm.
People want to pick a problem that can't be solved because that takes them off. Now they're not on the hook. It's not their fault that it didn't get solved because it was unsolvable to begin with. But aren't I heroic for going up against the,
Boss battle.
indefatigable juggernaut, right? It's like, yeah, exactly, the lost cause.
Mhm.
It begins with picking problems that are solvable, and a solvable problem is one that can be scoped. It is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. And if you solve enough of those scoped problems over time, you'll affect greater change over time. If you refuse to start where you are with what you have and do what you can, you're actually um, you're delusional at best.
Yes.
And so, but just to expand on that idea, the problem that we have to solve first is the problem of that's solved by looking in the mirror and not looking out the window anymore. Like, we are, by nature, we like to look out the window, chase new things, look
Compare.
for look for the other things that are at fault, or look to the other gurus, or people that have solutions that we can imitate or emulate.
Yeah,
um
they have a map. I've
we
gotta do that map exactly.
Yeah,
No.
exactly. A map can only take you where other people have been or want you to go. If you're going to play your game on your terms and make the difference only you can make in the way you can make it, you have to hone your compass and draw your own map. And so that
Mhm.
first problem that the book tackles is looking in the mirror. Like, who are you really? What are you good at really? Where do you belong really? What is the difference only you can make in the way only you can make it? And how do you put that forth into the world and build coalitions, affiliations, founding fellowships, and community of practice, so that over time you can use the power of collective momentum and the compounding effect of solving small problems in service of solving bigger problems. And that's how real meaningful change for the better has always happened. Martin Luther King didn't solve some of the problems of civil rights, and Gandhi did not solve the problem of British colonialism by swinging for home runs every time they got up to the plate. They started very, very small, and they stood in their integrity, and they did what they could with what they had, where they were, with the people around, and suffered a great deal as a result of that. But they were committed to not only the journey and the outcome that they sought, but they were committed to doing that with intention and with integrity.
As you're talking and sharing these things, I am I'm a very visual person, so I'm almost seeing, like, the problems we're solving are, like, the foundation of our businesses and our lives, and then the people we align with are part of our fellowship. You said the word fellowship, and I'm often thinking of Lord of the Rings. But I don't know. I don't know how to express those thoughts, but I could see the alignment and the resonance. It's just so great. I love it. Um, a meme might be growing in my mind. Anyway, let's see, what other questions do I have? Uh, let's see. Uh, how do us purpose-driven people often shoot ourselves in the foot or sabotage ourselves before we even begin, would you say?
Yeah, well, it's wrapped up. The solution is wrapped into the title Intrepid, right? Intrepid is not recklessly um, sallying forth in face of things that are worth being scared of. It is acknowledging and recognizing our fears and resolving to push forward and do something meaningful anyway. Um, Fear, in Seth Godin's book, This is Strategy, he talks about three primary levers for human behavior as status, affiliation, and fear, uh, and freedom from fear. Um, we are programmed to crave uncertainty and to fear certainty. And so, in a world where nothing is certain, some people say death and taxes are the only certainties, but I don't know what happens when we die. And I know lots of people that aren't paying taxes. So, some people have seemed to hijack those two fears, but, there's, uh, by and large, everything is uncertain. And so, if you're going to make a difference in the world, you're going to have to uh, come to terms with your fears around uncertainty and your fear of failure. And one of the things that I think is helpful is to recognize that we're no longer, these, we're no longer monkeys dragging our knuckles through the jungle looking for saber-toothed tigers in the underbrush. Like, there's not a lot of existential threats to most, anybody that's got the technology and the means to be on this conversation is probably not experiencing daily or hourly threats to their existence. And knowing that, uh, we we invent fears, right? And some of those fears come through our narratives around status and affiliation. Like, where do I belong? Where do I not belong? How do I strengthen my affiliation by throwing rocks at our enemies? Uh, you know, where do I stand? Who's up? Who's down? How do I elevate my status? And do I have to diminish the status of others in order to do that? Like, these are all conversations that we're having. And what we have to, if we're going to navigate our stories around status, affiliation, and and fear, then we're going to have to learn how to tell ourselves better stories, truer stories, and stories that encourage our commitment to becoming the kind of person that we want to become. I often say that I don't think that people fear failure nearly as much as they fear success. Because in
Mhm.
order to succeed, you will have to put yourself on the hook. You will have to show up and you will have to do your work out loud and in public. And if you're doing anything meaningful, failure will be part of your daily diet.
Yep.
And uh, the bottom line is fear is not fatal. Like, if you, again, answer the questions in the book, what I am trying to advocate is that if you just take a sequence of small bets on yourself and take the smallest viable next step, the risk that you will burn yourself out, blow yourself up, and take yourself out of the game is almost zero. At the same time, the likelihood that you'll move forward, or that there will be even more opportunities and options ahead of you, is very, very high. So it becomes a risk mitigation opportunity increasing venture. And a
Mhm.
lot of that comes down to the stories we tell ourselves. Like I said I think it was Endeavor, it might have been Onward, choose your story, choose your future. Like, if you
Yep.
want to tell yourself a story about your limitations and why you must remain humble and hiding and why you're stuck and it's hopeless, you will live that story. If you tell yourself a story that of aspiration and hope, and that recognizes that things will be hard, but you can do them anyway, and that you can cultivate resilience and confidence and clarity as you go, and find the others and build affiliation and a movement around what you're trying to do. You can live that story. So I think the greater fear is that we are far more limitless than we imagine, and to imagine it can induce a lot of fear, because now we recognize that actually we are responsible for what happens next, and
Yeah, we
that's
gotta
then it
do the
becomes a
thing.
decision. Yeah.
We committed to do the thing, we're gonna have to do it then, and the fear about that and the next set of problems, we sometimes overthink, which I do daily, and you help me with daily. I remember too, this reminds me of when I was leaving a job because I had outgrown it and I knew I was stepping into entrepreneurship. And I was terrified. I really was. But I knew in my heart it was time. Everything had aligned to it was time. And someone tried to speak a story over me that I would not accept. They said, "You're going to be back." And I said, "No, I'm not." I may not have said it to them directly, but my inner like nope was like, "No, that is not happening." And I didn't go back, and I've been an entrepreneur or solopreneur since then, and that was 10 years ago. So, we gotta
Yeah,
change our stories.
congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, and we gotta change our stories, and we sometimes gotta change the people that we align with, because some people speak over us a story that doesn't align with our path. So and you just spoke about that, so that totally I totally agree. So good. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Another question, kind of the final one, I think. If someone finishes this conversation and wants to take one honest next step, what would you suggest?
Well, the closing message of the book is, begin and begin again. Like, the only thing that we actually have is the moment that we're in. The past is the past. If it's filled with regret or mistakes or missteps or failures, uh, or entitlements and privileges, like whatever it is, like there's nothing you can do about that. The past is the past. Like if there's things to atone for, like sure, recognize what you did wrong, and be responsible enough to be accountable and to make your apologies, express your regrets, and try to make things right. But the future is also not guaranteed. Regardless of how you think circumstances or forces beyond your control may be conspiring for or against you, all you really have is this moment. So every moment that you begin is a moment that you are actually beginning again. I reference a quote by my favorite pre-Socratic philosopher, Heraclitus, and to state it in a way that's more inclusive: no one steps in the same river twice, for they are neither the same person nor is it the same river. You are not the same person you were when you were 14. You are not the same person you were last year, last month, last week, or yesterday.
Mhm.
And the person that you're becoming is going to be informed and inspired by the action that you take today. And if you take that action with greater intention and greater integrity, and if you employ the things in the book around uh, be, being disciplined and deliberate about maintaining intention and integrity through your choices, through your aspirations, through your systems and your planning and your strategy, progress is more or less guaranteed. It may not be towards exactly what you imagine right now. Like I've found in my own life and with the lives of many of my clients, like they don't end up exactly where they imagined when they began. I certainly have not ended up where I imagined when I became a musician 30 years ago. I had a great career as a musician. I had a great career and made a huge impact as a guitar studio owner. Now I'm doing something completely different that was never on my radar. Um, but it's great. Like, I've ended up somewhere really great. I'm incredibly grateful for where I am. And if you have that attitude of gratitude, if you are paying attention and keeping in mind what matters, and you are framing yourself and your situation thoughtfully, with in a way that allows you to let go of your fear stories and step into your possibility stories, and you do that with and for the right people, you'll end up somewhere great. And but you will, if you don't begin, you will just be where you are tomorrow, exactly where you are today. And if you're comfortable with that, if you can tolerate that, that's great. No judgment. But for people like you and I, and I'm guessing, a lot of the folks that are here, we have Penny and Judith and Seth and Alice and Claire, all members of our community. We are people that just cannot abide to just settle for what is. It's not that we're not sufficient as we are. It's not that things are not okay. But we imagine that we can be and do more and better. And if we show up half a shade braver and get half a shade clearer and work together to make things better, we'll not only make things better for ourselves, but make things better for the people that we serve. And that's where I think the significance, meaning, and legacy really lie. And I think ultimately that's what we all are hoping for in our lives, is that whether or not we're remembered, it will matter that we were here and that we made a difference and that we had an impact and we did what we could with what we had for the people that we care about in our lives.
Mm, that's so good. So good. A lot of noodle candy here. Where can people buy your book, and follow you?
Yeah, so if you go to creativeonpurpose.com, there's a banner at the very top of the page, and I think the panel right below the header will take you to the page where you can buy the book. The paperback, the book is basically 27 ways of asking the same question. Do you care enough to commit? It's sequential, so that if you go from beginning to end, you will become the kind of person that gets clearer about and closer to what you want. Um, but it's also a book that you can tackle whichever question resonates the most or whichever one hits you the hardest.
Mm,
It's a book that can be revisited many times. It's less than 100 pages long, and for $15, you get the paperback edition, the ebook, and the audiobook edition, companion reader guide that will help you travel more effectively and efficiently. And it will also make available some of the other opportunities that we're going to be talking about after the launch, for getting together and working together to enhance each other's journey.
neat. That's so powerful. The fellowship. Well, anything else you wanted to share with us?
No, I mean, just gratitude for you and all of your participation and contributions to our community, and certainly everything that you're this. We are frequently co-conspirators on these live broadcasts, and so I appreciate the way that you think. I appreciate the way that you show up. I appreciate your generosity and your insight as a co-collaborator and host and guest on these calls from time to time. Penny, Judith, Seth, Alice, Claire, also active members who contribute and participate in ways that are extremely generous. Um, and for those that are not members or maybe even readers of Creative on Purpose, we'd love to have you sign up and show up, and check out what we have going on. And yeah, other than gratitude for you and just letting you know what a privilege it is to know you and to have these conversations. This has been great. This has been deeply appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you so much. You I often say how helpful you've been on my journey, and just thank you. Thank you for everything, and thank you for being here and sharing with us. And, we're gonna say goodbye. Feel free to follow Scott, buy his book, and learn more about how to be committed to follow through. All right, take care, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you, Bray. Appreciate you.
Okay, how do you end it?